Welcome to the DMF. I am your host, Justin Yance, and this is episode 25. And this is my interview with the Wrestling Superfan on Instagram, and we are talking about ECW 2000. Enjoy. Okay, all right. So here's the interview, and I am here with the Wrestling Superfan from Instagram, and his name is Edwin. How are you doing, Edwin?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Awesome.
So, first question is, how'd you get started doing this?
Well, I was at work one day. I was living in Philadelphia, and it was a boring job, like not much to do. And I was like, you know what? No one's doing wrestling Instagrams. Maybe I'll start a wrestling Instagram page, just to dedicate my love to pro wrestling. And it really started off as just me posting like my stuff that I had, like my DVDs and my memorabilia, and just it basically kind of was like just in general wrestling stuff. It didn't start off as a bunch of pictures and video or just pictures at the time. It was just me posting stuff. And then next thing you know, a few other pages came along, and I noticed how they were doing things. And so I switched it up. Those people were beginning to follow, and I started posting pictures every day just to get by the day. Wrestling is like my happy place. So then next thing you know, like guys like Justin, the Wrestling Classic, came along. He came along like a month after me. And, me and him interacted. We connected. Okay. The guy, Real Wrestling Fans Know. Those are the most memorable wrestling pages from the beginning to me, were myself, the Wrestling Classic, and Real Wrestling Fans Know. And and I used to get boosts, and the next thing, the following started growing, and it encouraged me to keep posting, and it became just this fun hobby of mine. I just like doing it just for the fun. I like interacting with wrestling fans all over the world, and that's like my motive behind it. I'm not trying to blow up over it or anything. I just really enjoy posting about wrestling, especially the past.
No, dude, I love what you do. I mean, when I saw that, and just the thing you just posted last night with the ECW on TNN, like you have the actual music. I'm trying to watch it on like the WWE network, and it's like Sandman comes out, and it's this music that sounds nothing like Into
Right,
Sandman.
That's the worst part about it. Yeah, every now and then, as a wrestling Instagram poster, I call it like you strike gold, where you just find all this gold. You discover all this gold. I was like, man, I got posts for days right now. And then there comes a dry period where, damn, what do I post now? You feel like you've posted everything. What can I post now? So like I'm going through that period now. I've discovered all this original ECW on TNN content, and I won't disclose how or where I got it, but there's plenty more of it out there. There's plenty more of it that I found.
Cool. All right, well, let's start. So we're talking about ECW 2000, and to me, a lot of people said that this was kind of where it was dying, but looking back at it, I feel like they were thriving.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
This was my absolute favorite time in ECW. 1999 was the start. That's where I really first discovered it. My sister's ex-boyfriend, he brought over the little black box, hooked it up to the TV, and we watched WrestlePalooza. And
oh wow,
it was so different. Like to me, I was young. I was a young teenager. I can't remember, but like 13 or something. And I was like, man, this is cool. Like I remember being on Raw back in like 97, but I didn't pay it that much attention then. And then my best friend, Jake, he was like, man, you see ECW's coming on TNN? I was like, what? They're going to be on TV now? Like a show every week? Like, yeah. So from the get-go, when that show hit, I thought, man, that was my favorite. Those are my favorite times personally of ECW, is the TNN era.
Yeah.
The late 99 to 2000. Those are the best days to me. I feel like they were growing. It reminds me a lot of AEW in a way. ECW reminds me a lot of AEW. People say WCW, but the in-ring action in ECW, besides all the hardcore stuff, is a lot like AEW. The presentation's WCW, but the in-ring work is ECW. And the characters, the way they have these characters that don't look like they'd be anything on the mainstream, in WWE. Like it's the same thing, and I really like what they're doing. AEW's doing because it reminds me of ECW, and I wish ECW. I wish they had kept going with that because it was hot and it was the real alternative. That was a true alternative. ECW was totally different from WWE.
For me, like the first time I discovered ECW was the World of Wrestling magazine, and you just looked at it and it was like, wow, what is this? This looks edgy, and that's one of the things that ECW had going for it. They were cool in a way that WWE could never be. They could like right around toward the end in like November of 2000, they started finally releasing DVDs. I remember the Extreme Evolution DVD.
Video games.
The video game. I
had all that stuff, man. I had all of it. I had both games. I had all the ECW figures, every single one of them. I wish that I kept them in the box. I'm a collector now. I wish I didn't play with them, and I wish I kept them in the box because they're worth. The price of them is rising, but no. That was the best time. That was when they were real. They were growing. They were evolving then, and people that's overlooked.
It's so sad to see that they closed their doors because look, WCW is just about to close their doors. And if ECW had stayed around, they could have been, that if they had kept going, they would have probably gotten, like, if they lasted just another year, like even into 2001, like probably by December of 2001, they would have had probably Daniel Bryan or the time. And it would have just been so great.
That's
and
instead
it's just to me
they killed off the competition.
Yeah, it was that to me the biggest detriment to what decreased the fandom in professional wrestling was the two companies going down, because then you just had McMahon's way. But so let's get into ECW 2000, and I wanted to talk a little bit about, if you notice, they had like the year-long feud. It was the network versus ECW, and everything kind of spun around that. What'd you think of that?
Well, back then, I just thought it was all, an act. But there was some realism behind that whole thing. As when I was young, I didn't really think much of that. Actually, I didn't really think more into it until later on when I realized that they really had heat with that network. They really had heat. Like those promos, that shoot promo that Heyman cut. Look, as a kid, I looked at it as I thought it was a work. It was pretty much a shoot.
Really?
Yeah, as a kid, I thought it was just a part of the show back then. The older I got, I'm like, that's real.
No, he was. They were.
I know, and also because Cyrus was like the guy they used to push the network, and I knew he was a wrestler, so that also made me feel like it was just an act. But it was behind the scenes.
Some of the things I think ECW did really good was the element of like surprise, not knowing what you were going to get when you turned on the program. You always got like something different, like they'd have an impromptu match or something like that. There was an excitement.
Yeah.
You feel like, if you watch WWE today, it's like exactly what they're going to do.
Exactly. It's
no guessing.
It's formula. Yeah, it's just the same formula every time you watch it. And the fans will never be that loud again. They'll never be like that again. The fans are huge. If this time is not proving that fans are really the driving force in wrestling, then I don't know what is, because I tried to watch Ring of Honor with no fans and it sucks. And I love Ring of Honor. I had to turn it off. But ECW, man, fans, just like that post I posted last night, you look at that crowd, it's going crazy. It's like a party. That's why I said this is like if wrestling went to a freaking college party or something. Like the fans are nuts. You got Sandman coming down, pouring beer in people's mouths. How does he even know they're 21? Like, man, smoking cigarettes.
I know it's so it's so out there, and going to that clip that you talked about, it to me, that's the best title change in the 2000s, because nobody thought anybody was going to beat Rhino.
Yeah, he was unstoppable.
Here all these guys come down. You got Paulie coming in, hitting him with the phone.
Yeah,
throw back to the 80s. It's so good. And then you got Rob Van Dam finally getting one up on the network, and you got Kid Cash coming out of that becoming a star. Like he
Kid
just
Cash
beat
was
right.
underrated. Kid Cash and ECW during that time with those leather black pants remind me of Kid Rock. Man, he was awesome. Yeah. Overlooked.
It just like music. The music added so much to ECW. That's the one thing they did not do right when they brought it back for WWE.
Yeah,
So like,
luckily I've recorded all that stuff on VHS.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's just,
the music ruins it. The music ruins it. All that music on the network, it just ruins it. Everything, all their music is edited out on ECW, pretty much. Like 90%.
I mean, I like that with New Jack they put in like at least some kind of a rap track. I mean, it sucks, but you know,
that song is not Natural Born Killers, but it's kind of catchy. Caught on to me. It'll never be anything close to Natural Born Killers, but I gotten used to his song. I'm all right with his. Even still, it's
not like Sandman's WWE Network music where you're just like, what is that?
Yeah.
Like I get excited, or RVD's music.
Ravens.
Ravens. It's just like, but RVD gets like hurt so bad.
The other day when I was posting, I was thinking, why couldn't they have just given him his old WWE music, the one before One of a Kind or something? I would have taken that over this garbage music they put over it.
One thing I found an interview on YouTube while I was like just going through all the ECW stuff, and I saw somebody asked RVD, why didn't they give you Walk in WWE? And he said that he was going to get the Kilgore version that they recorded for the ECW album. And like he came in, Shane McMahon said, hey, look at this, One of a Kind. And I'm just like, to me, Walk is just the perfect song for RVD. But I mean, looking at RVD in WWE, like they lost the manager, they lost the music. They lost the catchphrases. He couldn't say effing, he had to say damn. And it was just kind of lame.
He was still, Rob Van Dam is on my top 10 of all time for me personally. He's overlooked. He's underrated. As good as he was, he's still underrated. And an awesome dude. He's an awesome guy to meet in person.
Oh wow.
I met him a couple of times. I met him 3 different times.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
All right, so let's run down. I wanted to talk about, so January to April, I kind of classified this as the Awesome era, because at this time, Mike Awesome was just pretty much destroying people on a weekly basis, and he was like their Brock Lesnar. He just like ate them up and spit them out, but he did it in a way where the other guys still got over in some ways. It wasn't like it was just a squash match. Like you look at the Spike Dudley match.
Mm-hmm.
He got by taking so much of a beating. I mean, man, he beat the crap out.
That made Spike Dudley. Masato Tanaka. That put him over. Like I would have never looked twice at Masato Tanaka back then if he wasn't in that feud with Mike Awesome.
Yeah, it was.
They put on some awesome, brutal matches, man. Week in and week out. That's one of those matches where you wouldn't mind getting it 3 times in a month.
Yeah, because it was always
different.
It was hard hitting. You didn't know what you were gonna get,
and it wasn't the same match every time.
Yeah. And then the other storyline that kind of was happening was Raven and Dreamer were kind of teaming, and we got Justin Credible and Lance Storm kind of becoming they're the Impact players, but they're like really coming up. What did you think of that?
Man, let me tell you something. I loved the Impact players. Justin Credible, I knew he was Aldo Montoya even then. And I'm like, man, this dude, like Justin Credible was legit to me. It was more about Justin than Lance Storm for me. Like Lance Storm, Justin he could talk on the mic. I loved his intensity in the ring with the cane and everything. Like Justin Credible got himself over in the ECW, and that was one of my favorite. Matter of fact, that was my favorite tag team of that time for the work that they were doing.
They were great, and he also had that shirt, Got Blood. I thought that was like the coolest shirt.
And and they had Dawn Marie. They could have left Jason out, but that's all good.
Yeah, he was kind of like just.
Lance Storm had that Canadian. What I liked about Lance Storm is he was that Canadian technical style wrestler, like my all-time favorite, Bret Hart. So that was what I liked about him. And just growing up watching Aldo Montoya versus Justin Credible, I was like, yo, this guy, he really doesn't suck. He's really not a jobber. He can go in the ring. He's good. And I hated when he went back to WWE and they treated him just like
Montoya. No, even started on that. I absolutely him with the X Factor, and he couldn't do the move anymore. We had no prong. There was no Singapore Cane. He was just a guy. Oh, and he lost the jean shorts.
Do you remember that they changed? Yeah, he got tights. Do you remember that they changed That's Incredible to like some spinning front DDT? They called it that.
Yeah, they look like move we give to a guy just starting out.
Yeah,
like the overdrive.
That was awful, man. Just incredible. And I know he's had his struggles in life, but I respect to him for what he did in ECW. He made me a fan there.
Yeah. No, I remember when he came in, I was like, oh wow, he's gonna come in, and then it's like, what is this? This is not him. He's not getting to talk.
Yeah.
He didn't get to promo.
Man, if you look at that invasion angle, they ruined pretty much everybody except Rob Van Dam, really.
I know, and they tried to ruin him as well. They just couldn't because he was so over.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Raven, look at Raven when he came in 2000, when he interferes in the Taz match, everyone like stood up. They knew who that guy was, and then he never got the mic, and he never did anything.
And what he did do in WWE, he was good at. I see he was still good. He was still really good in the WWE, despite them, putting the shackles on him.
Yeah, but it just, I don't know. To me, like, so many guys. Mike Awesome. That's another guy who came and they didn't do anything with him. Well, WCW did nothing with him as well. That was. Don't get me started on that.
Yeah.
Fat Chicks Thriller.
Oh my God. That's horrible. Well, I don't understand why they would take a level talent like that after what he was doing in ECW and just do the same thing in a dying company. Like,
all Russo knew how to do. Yeah. That's all he knew. He was like, this is going to get over. I'm like, no, it's not.
Like Vince Russo purposely killed WCW.
It's so sad. And then Sabu leaves at this time. What do you think of Sabu leaving?
Sabu leaving, that's a foggy memory for me. Really, that wasn't when he went to WCW. No, he didn't go to WCW then. Where did he go?
He tried to blocked him. They blocked him.
He said that he couldn't wrestle in the country.
Something like that. I mean, in February, like he's pretty much gone by February. He was asked to do a job, and he just took his bags and walked out. And he took the referee that he was with too.
Yeah,
who or something.
Sabu was another one of those guys that drew me into ECW. All people like to do now is talk about how all his botches and all that. They don't look at what he did good, what he did well though. Everyone botches every now and then. Yeah, he had a significant amount of botches, but Sabu was so good that those botches shouldn't even pay attention to him because of the stuff that he did. Yeah, he wasn't really and he wasn't a technical wrestler or anything, but he was entertaining. He could fly. He was hardcore to the core. And his character, I don't know if you saw the post I made from the first ECW on TNN episode, I think I did last week.
Yeah.
And it was the introduction to Sabu. Like, how sick was that? Way to get a guy over. That if you want to get someone over to an audience that doesn't know much about him, that is the perfect example right there.
One of the things ECW did was they mixed in. You didn't just have one guy doing this. You had all these different styles and all these different things. It's kind of like what New Japan kind of is now and AEW is.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, they had the technical thing all great. They did the technical wrestling thing great. They did the lucha style great. They did the hardcore style great. It's just like wrestling is like a movie with different genres. We got some fans of comedy, we got some fans of horror. Some people don't like comedy, some people don't like horror. It's just like that. Wrestling is movie, and the genres are hardcore, lucha libre style, catch as catch can, etc. And fans are like to crap on it all the time. I'm just like, wrestling has so many different styles. It's like all about if you like it or not. Me personally, I find enjoyment in every style. I find enjoyment in the flippity floppity, as they call it. I love technical wrestling. I love it all.
Yeah, that's how I feel. That's kind of how I didn't get skip it ahead a little bit, but when Omega and Moxley did their match and everybody hated that match except for like a few people, I was like, I applauded them for trying something different.
Right.
We had that kind of match in a while, and I thought they did a really good job with it.
Versatility in wrestling is great. Like you do a wrestling show, you do all the different styles in one show. Like that's, I like that. I don't understand why people make it seem like everything's supposed to be technical. No.
Yeah. Well, when you look at WWE, it's the same. They're taught to all work the same. So it's like, what's the difference between this guy facing this guy? It's going to be the same match.
You know what?
Except finishing move.
When I watch WWE, a lot of times I find myself looking at my phone and just listening to the commentary because the matches are all the same. I mean, well, they're not all the same, but you've seen everything. You've seen every match style, every outcome, all of that. You've seen it in WWE. In AEW, it's unpredictable, just like what ECW was back then. You don't know what you're going to get out of the story they tell in the ring. You don't know what they're going to do. Perfect example, Cody versus Brody Lee, where he squashed him. Who would have ever thought that was going to happen?
I know, that was so good. I mean, nobody thought that like he was just going to get squashed like that. And so good.
Even though I'm not a fan of him losing the dog collar match, who would ever thought Cody was going to win? Like when you go and watch a lot of AEW and New Japan, you a lot of times don't know who's going to win. You second guess yourself. Like WWE, you know exactly who's going to win.
Yeah. Well, you're kind of hoping WWE will pull out like a trick here and there, but it's like we got the Roman Reigns thing that's going on, and that's great and everything, but it's Roman Reigns surrounded by a clown show. It just doesn't go anywhere. All right, so let's look at the first pay-per-view of 2000, Guilty as Charged. What'd you think of this show?
That's Guilty as Charged 2000?
2000, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I have this on my TV right now. Just Jazz versus Simon Diamond. And you'll have to remind me of some of the matches on the show because
I'll remind you. So they had this was main evented by Awesome versus Spike Dudley. And that's
through that table from the top turnbuckle. Yeah.
What did I write down here? And then the Impact players win the tag titles from
Raven.
Sabu loses to RVD. Those were like the main things that happened on that show.
This show was not as memorable because when I was a kid, I didn't get this pay-per-view. I've gone back and watched it on the network, but I don't have those sentimental feelings about it. I never a lot of times when I watch wrestling now, I don't my eyes aren't glued, but I'll be paying attention if you know what I mean. But from what I do remember, the tag team match, Impact players versus Raven and Tommy Dreamer. I think was there a turn at the end of that match? I think there was a someone low blowed somebody. Or no, it was Beulah McGillicuddy came out. Hadn't seen Beulah McGillicuddy in how long? Probably since the 90s sometime. Right? Didn't she come out during that match?
I think that was just really what happened here is just I think Raven's outside of the ring. No, Dreamer's outside of the ring, and then they basically just double teamed Raven. And they beat him that way.
I posted this not long ago too.
Yeah. So I think it's a good pay-per-view. I mean, it still has that whole mix of things, but they get the thing that I like about these 2000 pay-per-views from ECW is it felt like each one built on the last one.
Yeah.
It just kind of moving on to ECW Living Dangerously 2000, and this is where so RVD has hurt his leg and he can't compete anymore. So they've got the whole tournament and you got the whole network trying to you got the network coming in and saying, we want Super Crazy to be the Super Crazy supposed to be Super Crazy is the guy that kind of wins through the tournament the fair way, and then you got Rhino who's just being picked by the network. And at the end of this, RVD helps Super Crazy, and then Sandman comes up, and that's kind of how they end the show. Do you remember that?
No, I didn't see that one because, of course, back then I didn't have a scrambler, but I have watched it back before. You'll have to remind me of some of the moments in that one. Super Crazy. He defeated Rhino,
Yeah,
Steve Corino, and Jack.
Rhino. Yeah, he beats the main thing. And then the Impact players beat because Awesome and Mike Awesome and Raven become kind of like a short tag team, and Dreamer and Masato Tanaka, and it's the three-way dance. And the Impact players regain the tag titles. Rhino destroys Sandman, and then he destroys his family as well. His wife gets gored and piled.
Steve Corino went to the crowd and he talked that. Oh my gosh, he would be fired if he said this to somebody nowadays. I remember that was where isn't that where he was facing Dusty Rhodes in a bull rope match, and before that he saw Tyler Fullington and his wife Lori Fullington, and it was right in front of his kid.
Corino. Yeah, Corino was the first one to actually say something to Sandman's wife. Yeah, that's before that. And Dusty beats Steve Corino at this show. It was just crazy because like all this stuff just kind of their shows flowed so well. Like, okay, here's match 1, here's match 2, here's match 3. It always felt like you didn't know where the matches were gonna end up.
And I don't ever recall a time watching the pay-per-view where I got bored ever.
Yeah.
They were they went by so fast because of the action and the crowd, the energy the crowd was given, and just the whole product. Never, not even watching, not watching any episode of TNN, none of them.
Yeah.
My most memorable match from Guilty as Charged is Dusty versus Steve Corino, because I remember, at the time I hadn't got my black box yet. I had convinced my mom to get one eventually, but I didn't have one yet. And so I had to watch the highlights on TNN at the time. But I remember the Dusty feud and being amazed that Dusty Rhodes was in ECW, making people bleed and bleeding himself. Steve Corino at that time, and man, he was over the hill. I hated him. Hated him at that time. He was this skinny dude, man. He sucks, blah, blah, blah. And later on, when he became babyface, I was like, yo, Steve Corino is awesome. He reminds me a lot of CM in a way.
And that's part of the brilliance of Paul. He knew by having him get taking these beatings from Dusty Rhodes and taking all these bloodbath beatings, that it was only a matter of time before the fans figured out that this guy's something. Right.
So when it's time for him to become a babyface, the fans will be all for it. And he definitely tricked me with it, because I hated Steve Corino. I really could not stand him. And then when he became a face, at first I had a hard time admitting him to myself. I didn't even want to say it out loud. I would think in my head though, am I really starting to like Steve Corino? And then finally I was like, yeah, I like Steve Corino.
Yeah. And also on this pay-per-view, they had Mike Awesome come out before his match, and he faces Kid Cash. Yeah. And it's little things like that ECW would do. You wouldn't expect the main event guy to come out and just challenge somebody to defend his world title, because he's like, I'm fighting twice tonight.
It's just like one of the TNN episodes, Rob Van Dam came out to defend his TV title against C.W. Anderson. Beat C.W. Anderson in a decent match. It wasn't that long, but it was a decent match. You got a lot out of whatever they gave you. And then right on top of that, someone else came out and challenged him for the title. It was I just posted this too. It was Sabu. Sabu came out and challenged RVD for the TV title, and him, Bill Alfonso had heat with RVD and Sabu. They all had heat with each other. within that circle.
Oh yeah, they kind of like took turns. Like Bill Alfonso was trying to play like both sides.
Right. Yep. And that was all on 1 hour of TNN on a Friday night.
I know they fit so much into like a 1 hour show. Right. Like you watch WWE and it's just like
3 hours.
And it ever ends. Will it ever, it's like it doesn't feel packed. It just feels like, they're treading water.
Yeah. It's all a network thing apparently. But ECW did a lot in that, just like that post from the Hammerstein Ballroom I did yesterday. All that stuff happened in one segment in the very beginning of the show.
I know. Like what? And then later on in the show, they had the FBI defeat the Unholy Alliance.
Yeah,
I mean they gave you more bang for your buck.
Yeah.
Let's just
the Unholy Alliance. Let's talk about them. They were good too. That team was good too. Yeah. You had Sinister Minister, James Vanderbilt.
I'm gonna get to them in the next thing. So basically, that's the end of this. Now at this point, Awesome leaves and he goes to WCW, and Taz comes in and beats Awesome. What'd you think of that?
That when Taz was in the WWE and he came in,
that
was great. Like that was like, to me, it was hard to see between the lines and tell that they're working together. The way they did that, it seemed like he literally invaded ECW again to take the title. And all while that was going on, there was some other stuff going on between organizations. Mike Awesome, he was in WCW with the ECW title, right?
Yeah, he was there was talk of him like throwing the ECW belt down, and Paul got a hold of it, and they sent the cops to the show to like get the belt.
Wow.
So
ECW held a match between WCW guy and a WWF guy at the time.
Yeah.
And that was a great memory. That I do remember that, and I remember how that made me feel. And as a fan, I was intrigued and super interested in that. I've been watching these three companies be separate for so long, and then you have Mike Awesome just left WCW, and then he shows back up, and you're like, what? But he works for WCW. And then you got Taz show up, and you're like, he works for WWF. You mean WWF let him go back there? And so that's super interesting as a fan who was watching a week in and week out. Like that was good. That felt like a real invasion. You know what I mean?
And that's the genius of ECW is like they'd lose a guy, but they'd make it work. It wouldn't matter.
They lost top guys, and they still made it work. Yeah. Jerry Lynn, Jerry Lynn.
Yeah. Well, we're definitely going to get to Jerry Lynn in this next book, because this is, to me, these next months are where Jerry Lynn like really comes into his own. So at this point, Taz faces Dreamer, and Dreamer beats Taz, and then before he can even put the belt around his waist, Just Incredible comes out, tells him he wants a title shot, gets it. Francine turns on Dreamer. And we have Just Incredible as champion. And to me, I think that's such a great moment.
It was. Back at that time, I tell you, I hated it. Even though I liked Just Incredible, I wanted Tommy Dreamer to have a good run. And I was like, man, he just got it, and they're just taking it off of him. He's like the heart and soul of ECW, and he's been there for so long. But at the same time, even then, I realized how genius it was, because that was when I started really liking Just Incredible, like as like one of my top favorites in ECW. Yeah, I liked him in the Impact Players. It was like a love-hate kind of thing. I loved him in the Impact Players. But then when that happened with Dreamer, I didn't like it. But I still like it.
And the way they set that up, Dreamer wins the belt, and they have all the guys come out and like shaking his hand and everything. We have Raven who comes out and actually shakes Dreamer's hand. It felt like real. And then you have Incredible come out and ruin the moment, and he makes you want to hate him even more.
Yeah, that was perfect. That was great. That was perfect booking, though. Like, he became the biggest heel in ECW off of that. He was the biggest heel in ECW until before he got to Jerry Lynn, of course.
Yeah,
and that was a great payoff.
So in these months, which I call April, October, I call this pretty much the new champion. Pretty much Just Incredible is champion. These are his months, and at this point in time, we also see RVD loses for the first time in 2 years. We have Rhino really building up, and then we have the tag division coming into its own. So let's look at Hardcore Heaven 2000.
That was a paper.
And
That was when I had my box.
Yeah, you did have this so you were able to see this show.
I have this one on VHS. Yeah.
Wow. So what do you think of this show?
I liked it. I loved it. It happened Mother's Day. I'll never forget.
Yeah.
And I'll just have to pull up the list and look though. But at the card, Hardcore Heaven 2000. Justin, let's see. Give me a second here. Where's it? So remind me of some of the matches so that I can.
So, Incredible faces Lance Storm. This is Lance Storm's last night, as he's going to WCW. Jerry Lynn defeats RVD.
Yeah.
And Scotty Yann
on
him. Rhino destroys Sandman again. Tajiri defeats Karina. That was the great thing about Sammy. He could lose like 3 straight pay-per-views and you'd still be like, hey, he's still a threat. As Paul he knew how to get the guy to lose and then still keep heat so that he would, or, keep his credibility so that he didn't just be like a guy. Like I remember when WWE had Umaga lose 3 times to Triple H. And I was just like, he's dead. You just killed him. He means nothing.
Right.
Just so sad. I was just like, what? I'm like, really? He can't win at least one in between? Triple H has to beat him every single time clean in these decisive matches. And you couldn't have done that with somebody else.
Right.
So, oh man.
Yeah.
Don't get me started.
I remember Nova and Chris Chetty in the Baldies, which led to the New Jack coming out and beating the crap out of Angel.
Yeah. He does it. Yeah. New Jack starts to really come in.
He's another. He was ECW special attraction. And I'm speaking as a fan and how that person made me feel at the time. New Jack gets a lot of flack for his unprofessionalism in the ring and all that. But as a child and as a fan, he was entertaining. I don't care if he didn't wrestle. People always bring the fact, he doesn't wrestle. That's not his thing. He's New Jack. He's a character. He's a gangster. And what he does, street fights. He's a street fighter. That's what he does. And anytime that gun sound would go off and Natural Born Killers came out, I would be literally on my feet in the house because he was literally like the special attraction in ECW. And you didn't see him every week. You didn't see him on TNN every week. You barely saw him, really. You didn't see him as much as you wanted to. And so when you heard that go off, that Natural Born Killers play, you had your eyes glued to the TV. At least I know I did.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I think ECW did really well. And you see that with AEW is not putting everybody on the show every week.
Right.
So that you don't, it doesn't feel like you've seen everything.
Yeah. I mean,
like it doesn't.
Let's face it. New Jack came on there every week. He wouldn't feel as special. To see that act every week. You couldn't, that act isn't meant to be on every week. It's meant to be the way that they booked it.
Yeah.
Genius of Paul.
Yeah. Oh man, he cut great promos. Like you want to talk about somebody fired up and make you believe like he is going to beat somebody up. That was Jack. He could. We're going to get to some of his promos here.
He said some stuff. I know. I remember. He said something about raping somebody. Pretty much like I was in jail. I know he said something about I was in jail and I'm gonna treat you just like I treated that my bunkmate or something like that. Like
yeah, he
did believe that though. It wasn't you didn't feel like it was an act. You felt like that was real. Like New Jack felt real.
And that's what I mean about the ECW. Everything felt real. It didn't feel like, oh, this is the character that does this. It felt like these guys weren't like in WWE on when they had the draft. They had them all stand on the ramp, and
I hate when they do.
Stephanie, I'm like, could you make them look any lamer?
Right, I hate when they do that. Or have everybody surrounding the ring while one wrestler's in the ring talking and putting all them down on the outlet. Like if I'm a wrestler, I'm not going out there to stand for this celebration. You know?
Yeah. And you notice, like, the only guy that wasn't up there was Roman Reigns and the Fiend, and I'm just okay. So I guess everybody else is a joke except for these two guys.
Right? Yeah, they've been doing that for years. They've been doing that forever.
They have.
I hate it.
But why haven't they figured out that doesn't work? It does the opposite of what they want to happen.
I think the thing with WWE is there's a lot of their fan base is so big that us, the true like wrestling, the diehard wrestling fans are just a small part of it now. You've got so many of these casual fans out here. No offense to them, but I see it. Like when I talk to a normal person out here who's not like a fan like myself, I understand like the different how they can get away with certain things, like how WWE can get away with changing Dominic Dijakovic to T-Bar one night after he was just Dijakovic and Mia Yim into whatever her name is now. Like,
oh man, they'll started on that, yeah. And then the guys that are attacking Raw get drafted to Raw. That makes no sense. If they're such a threat, you wouldn't want them on your. No one wants to draft.
They cater to. They don't cater to fans. They cater what brings them the most money, and what brings them the most money is not us. It's the casual.
Yeah,
because you got they got the kids, and you got the parents who watch with the kids who get into it but don't understand it, like a fan like me and you, and so on and so on. That's WWE is just like Disney now.
If you look at the demographic, they're not even really bringing in kids. Their audience is like 40 and older. I mean, they're not even really attracting kids anymore.
No.
Like
you got a point there. Yeah, you're right. Now that John Cena's not really there,
they've got so they're catering to an audience that isn't even there. They're like pretending they're Disney, but they're not.
Yeah.
Be like so Disney.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish they really could find a balance to really be special again. It's nothing special.
And
I like being a fan of a sports team that has been terrible. It's like being a fan of the Chicago Bulls in the 90s and waiting for them to be that good.
Yeah,
that's what it's like.
Yeah, it really is. But the thing is, oh man, it's so depressing to watch. It's just like I used to be so excited to watch this show, and now it's just white noise.
Yeah,
I'm doing something else while I'm like watching. Exactly. Like, oh, okay.
It's like you feel like you're obligated. You have to watch it. You have to watch Raw on a Monday, SmackDown on a Friday. Yeah, SmackDown has been doing really good, but we won't go into that. Maybe another time.
Yeah, it's not bad. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that. Let's keep this to ECW. So Lynn becomes the first guy to really defeat RVD, and kind of like that's the thing that like is starting to like just catapult him. You can kind of see the thread building with him. And this takes us to ECW Heatwave 2000, the first time they're in LA.
First time the Van Terminator.
The first ever Van Terminator. And this is headlined by Credible versus Dreamer Stairway to Hell match, which I love that match. And we never got the.
I haven't seen it in a while, but I love that match. I remember, and it felt different to me. The Stairway to Hell. That was the first time I saw something like that.
Yeah. And then RVD beats Scotty Anton, and he uses the Van Terminator. He pretty much kills him.
Man, I remember seeing that for the first time and just being so amazed by that. I was like, wow. He just jumped from one side of the ring to the other and kicked the freaking chair in the guy's face. Like he wasn't really covered up like you see them do it now.
No, it's amazing. And the way he would just do it, it was so fast. Like unlike anything anybody else.
The athleticism that RVD had in his arsenal with that and everything else he did. Yeah. And
then Ryan beats Sandman again.
For the TV title. Yeah.
Kills him again. But man, you still loved Sandman. It didn't matter if he got killed. He was just like it still worked. Um, so that's good. So that was I like this pay-per-view. This is also the pay-per-view where the XPW guys challenged the ECW guys, and according to New Jack, they beat the living crap out of them.
Wow. I didn't know about that. That wasn't on the actual show, was it?
You could actually see where they do, like when they kind of take the camera away. No, it's in the main event. Somebody attacks.
It happened in the middle of the main event,
I think,
between Just Incredible and Tommy Dreamer.
Yeah. During the somebody did something to I think George, who was with Dreamer at the time,
yep.
And
George.
They lock out and they attack and they fought outside, and apparently it didn't end up too well for the XPW guys.
I have to go back and look at that because I don't recall that part. Did they pan the cameras away so you couldn't see it?
Yeah, they pretty much panned the camera to the ring, and they took it outside, but you could see the whole like locker room coming out, and then they kind of just focus it on the ring, so you don't really see.
They were probably doing some shoot fighting in that XPW and New Jack and all them. Yeah.
Yeah, no. Jack said that it was a brawl, and they beat the crap out of them. So this brings us now to ECW Anarchy Rules 2000, which to me this is my favorite pay-per-view of this.
That is my favorite one too. This is my most memorable pay-per-view of 2000. I can't tell you how many times I rewatched this pay-per-view on VHS as a kid. This was the best. Yeah, this was my favorite too. Anarchy Rules 2000. They had freaking Limp Bizkit doing "Rollin'" as the theme song, and with a music video mixed in. I'll never forget.
Oh yeah, I forgot they did.
This was before the Undertaker came out with that.
Yeah. No, DCW was always ahead of the curve on that kind of stuff. They went up to by the time WWE started using "Rollin'," like basically, Fred Durst was starting to become like the most hated man in music.
Yeah.
When ECW, he was still kind of cool, but like he was starting to like get the heat on him. They have that music video, and on the network it's some random thing that you can't even tell what the hell it is.
Takes away from it. Does the Undertaker, does he ever come out on the network with Rollin'?
I think there's like some Raw where they forgot to take it out and you can see it, but I think it's just because somebody forgot to make that take it out. But yeah, no, they've taken pretty much all of Rollin'. It's just that they just put on the
that dead man his big red booger red music or whatever.
Yeah, big red thing. But the thing is, when you change the music, it changes the crowd. You don't hear the crowd exactly the same,
and they're not. Yeah,
and it ruins. I can't I'm just like I'm like listening really hard to hear the crowd, and it's like you can't. What is that?
Yeah, that's all of it when they edit that music.
Yeah,
it's with all
this is an ECW, but it's a good example of it on the network. That when Bischoff came into WWE, he came out Back in Black by AC/DC the first time he came out. Now on the network they changed it to his "I'm Back," the thing that they gave him as his music. But when he originally came out, he came out to Back in Black from AC/DC. That's why when it comes out, it sounds so flat because you can't. They've covered up the crowd.
Yeah.
They did that even with Jericho when he came out in '99. Hear the crowd saying Jericho, and they've like hushed the crowd where you can't hear the crowd, because as soon as Jericho's name pops up, there's like this gasp in the audience that you can hear in the original track of that show, and they changed it so you can't hear it. So it's like it's awful. So getting back to Anarchy.
Let's talk about the opener here. Danny Doring and Roadkill versus the Bad Street Boys, Christian York and Joey Matthews. You talk about a hot way to open a show. This is like watching Private Party versus freaking what's the team with Angelico and the other guy. It's like watching one of those matches. What's the name of that team?
Some Pentagon Jr. The Bros.
Not the Lucha. Well, you could say that, but I was thinking more like Angelico and whatever that other guy is. I can't think of that name. Hybrid 2. It's like Hybrid 2 versus Private Party in a way, or like the Butcher and Blades, because since you got Roadkill, who was the big guy, but they put on a nice fast-paced, just a solid way to open a show with Danny Doring and Roadkill and Christian York and Joey Matthews. That was the first time I can recall seeing them on ECW. Joey Matthews and Christian York. They might have been on there before, but that's the first time I can remember them being notable. ECW. Yeah. Danny Doring and Roadkill at the time, I feel like they were starting to take off. They were starting to take off as a tag team, as a top tag team at this time.
Yeah, this is really when you can see that you can see the depth in the tag team division in ECW at this point in time. So, yeah, you got Danny Doring and Roadkill and the Bad Street Boys, and then a little bit later on in the night you got the FBI versus the Unholy Alliance. Mikey Whipwreck and Yoshihiro Tajiri. Who would have thought those guys would have made such a great tag team?
Yoshihiro Tajiri was so fun to watch, even in ECW before he got to WWE. He was the first guy I remember doing those kicks like that, where guys on his knees, Daniel Bryan yes kick type thing. He's the first guy I remember doing those, and still to this day, I still don't know anybody that does it better.
And the way he hits him, that snap that he hits,
the way the snap he had on it, it made it look that much better.
And the tarantula, because in ECW, he could hold it. They didn't have like rope
they put the 5 count on it.
Yeah, where it's like, okay, we barely got to see it, or when he fought Taz that time, and they just they beat the crap out of him. And as soon as he got those black tights, like all of a sudden, Tajiri just
he was no longer Yoshihiro, he was just Tajiri. That was a good name. That was a good way to drop the first name. This match with Danny Doring and Roadkill and the Bad Street Boys, both guys did a good job of putting the losers and the winners over in this match, and it's a great way to open up this match, to open up this show.
Yeah, no, it's a hot, and it's a hot match. Yeah, it got the show off to such a great start, and then you got pretty much the end of the network versus ECW. You got Joe Gertner finally beating Cyrus, because Kid Cash beat Easy Money. Yeah. And at this point in time, they did with Spike was like the commissioner thing. Yeah. Except they didn't do it in a way that was like lame. Like it was kind of cool the way he did it, because like you kind of were finally waiting for somebody to finally have power in the babyface side. It wasn't like going back to WWE. I don't want to talk about them.
Well, as much as we bash WWE, I still love it, and that's why I watch it, even though they're not where I would like them to be at as far as what I'm seeing on my TV. But yeah,
it's hard for me to like because they've burned.
Spike came out, didn't he? He had the leg cast on, I think, when he came out, didn't he? This is when he had that leg cast on. He had like a
which one? Oh yeah. I heard his leg. Yeah, and he would come out with but he would still like he was
still
involved with the match.
Stuff.
And we also tell me what did you think of Chili Willy?
Oh my gosh, Chili Willy! I remember.
Tell me that.
As a kid, the first thing I said was Chili Willy. What kind of name is that? Wait, what is up with that name? And this black dude with the Dennis Rodman with the blonde hair. I was like, is he like so Scorpio, but not as cool? Like, what's up with him? Yeah, I didn't get him. I didn't understand the Chili Willy thing and the push with him, because he never got a chance to even get over anything, because by that time they were closing up.
Yeah. He was, but you could tell Paul was, he was in his rear view mirror.
He was gonna become more than what he was. I feel like he was trying to make him more of a Too Cold Scorpio type guy. Chili Willy.
Yeah, you did that. You hit the nail right on the head. he was too cold. He was supposed to be the new Too Cold Scorpio, except for he wasn't.
Right. No, he wasn't even close. Who knows?
No,
Who knows though with Paul Heyman, the way he booked guys and got them over? Who knows?
Yeah.
He could have been too cold, but without all the athleticism and the dance.
He would have figured out how to get it to
Yeah,
work. With Paul, you just leave Paul alone, he'll figure it out.
Got a lot of guys over.
I believe
he got a lot of guys over that I would at the beginning. I was like, man, this guy's a bum. Like Steve Corino, for example. Easy Money. Easy Money was money. He was good. I hated his ring attire, but he was good. I remember he went to WCW and his name was Jason Jett later on. And I was like, oh, it's Easy Money in WCW. It was pretty cool.
Jason Jett.
Because like I came to like him by the time the ECW is over because I appreciated his in-ring ability.
Yeah, he debuts in March 7th of WCW. Yeah, actually, it was Jason B.
Jet. I didn't know there was Jason B.
Jason B was his name. And so basically, he's there at March 7th. So, like, he got to be there for, like, I guess, 2 weeks.
Oh, it was? And he went from Jason B to Jason Jet that quick.
Then the WCW closes up shop. Yeah, okay, yeah. Then, he turned to Jet in, he was renamed Jason Jet the following week. So, he already went through a name change. And he's only on the show from March 7th to March 21st. That's his last show.
So this show that we're talking here, Anarchy Rules 2000, remind me, was this when Steve Corino was starting to become more of a babyface?
Yes, well, Steve Corino defeats C.W. Anderson to become the number.
Yeah.
So he turned on.
Remember, he was a face. Yeah, I remember that. That was November to Remember. Actually, that was when I was like, man, you know what? Steve Corino's it's pretty decent.
Yeah, and then we have so Rhino faces Rob Van Dam, and Rhino actually beats Rob Van Dam. Now, Just Incredible hits Rob Van Dam with the cane and kind of messes up his Van Terminator, but you didn't see Rob Van Dam lose many times, so I thought that gave Rhino a huge run. It's like here, like he's beating everybody.
Yeah, he's destroying everyone, and he just at that time in that day and age, you never heard of a guy holding a mid-card title for almost 2 years. He made that title more prestigious than the world title because he held it that long.
No, I mean the Anarchy Rules. He's the main event.
Yeah,
him and Balls Mahal.
Yeah, you know how Cody says the TNT and AEW title, you don't distinguish the two. They're both just as important. Well, that was a perfect case there and there's a perfect case of the guy making the title and not the title making the guy. RVD made that TV title.
And that's what that's what I'd like to happen is like to have all the title belts mean so much that you could headline them with that.
Right. Yeah, just like WWE. What's the point of having 2 tag titles? There's not.
What's the point of having all those belts?
The Young Bucks.
They've got so many. Yeah.
And then the look versus why do all the world titles have to look the same? Like, what's fun?
Oh man, don't get me.
What's fun about that?
Don't get me started on that. That was the best thing about AEW when they showed the world title and the TNT title. All these, I'm like, oh wow, these look like titles that are different, and they have like feel to them, and it was so great. I mean,
the look itself distinguishes. It makes it feel important just in itself, just by the look, especially if it's a good looking title. Like the tag titles in AEW to me are the best looking ones, and then of course that AEW title reminds me of a modern day Big Gold. But those AEW tag titles also remind me of WCW's tag titles.
They're great. They so have their on what the fan wants to see, and that's why I think they're just going to continue to build. But we will talk about that later. Let's talk about the man, Jerry Lynn versus Just Incredible. What'd you think of this?
Loved it. You know why? New Jack. Yeah. Now, The referee, what was that referee's name again? Danny Davis, or what was that ref's name?
Yeah,
He
was
and he said he gave double bird, and then New Jack hit, and he came out to help his friend Jerry Lynn, beat him upside the head with a cane before, or no, I'm sorry, he beat up the guys in the ring before Just Incredible hit him upside the head with a cane a few times. Jerry Lynn finished him off. Everybody came out celebrating the ring. First off, before that, let me rewind to the beginning. We're in small Minnesota, the Minnesota Vikings crowd, and Just Incredible comes out with a Green Bay Packers jersey on.
Yeah, I know.
I'm a Green Bay Packers fan, so I loved it. I'm a Packers fan. I've been a Packers fan. I'm from Maryland, yes, but I grew up being a Packers fan because my dad was a Packers fan, and I live in Maryland, so hated the Redskins growing up. Ravens didn't come around till later on, so yeah, I love that.
That's hilarious. Yeah, no, and he got such heat with that. But one of the things I love when New Jack, comes out, like he's the last guy you thought that was going to come out. Like you just. I don't know. Did you think New Jack was going to come out? Who did you think was coming out?
I had no idea. You never know when New Jack was going to show up because, like I said, he didn't come out every week, so you never knew. He came out with that all orange on, looked like he came straight out of a prison. He had he had that freaking knife, whatever that thing is, in his hand. That knife, whatever it is. I don't know what that's called.
Oh yeah, that claw. And I was just like, man, that was a
man. He had me hyped when I remember. He had me hyped when he came out. I was like, oh yes, because New Jack was, like I said, he was my favorite attraction, and I just loved. That was my favorite. He was one of my favorite ECW performers during that time because he was unpredictable. You never knew when you were going to get him, and I just wanted to see the 187 from the top of some arena through a table on somebody. Like
oh man,
he destroyed it. People like to overlook the talent that they did as a performer from the fans' point of view. We're not wrestlers. We're fans. Enjoy it as a fan. Don't act like you're a wrestler. Yeah, the wrestlers might not like it that he was literally taking it to guys, but as a fan watching it, he was awesome.
And also, this was the first time he really ever interfered in the main event.
Yeah.
This was kind of he's getting involved in the actual main, before it's usually the undercard stuff, but this is the first. So that's why it's so unlikely that he's the guy that comes and saves Jerry Lynn. You thought maybe it'd be Sandman, maybe it's RVD because he already got involved in RVD's match, but no, it's New Jack, and the way they did it still was, it's not like he is the reason Lynn won. He just took care of the guys that were making that couldn't win.
He was not the reason that Jerry Lynn won. You're right. And I tell you,
it wasn't like Styles at Hard Justice. They had Tito Ortiz punch out Jeff Jarrett, and then he pins him, and I'm like, wait a minute, you look like you cheated to win the belt. That's dumb.
And a great note about him in this main event is when he's beating down Jerry Lynn, he grabs a microphone and starts talking. Oh, yeah. And he does a great job. He's beating the crap out of Jerry Lynn while talking trash to the crowd and to Jerry Lynn, and they start throwing trash in the ring at him. And
they
soda's flying. And he was very good. He was much better than people remember him.
They threw a whole drink in there.
Yeah, and a whole soda, a whole Coca-Cola flying through the air at him for bringing. How are these wrestlers not looking at this stuff and being, I'm going to steal that. I'm going to grab a microphone and I'm going to kick the crap out. I mean, again, especially in WWE, they can't do that. They have to go by what they say. But in AEW, I'm waiting for somebody to grab the mic, start beating the crap out of us. Has somebody done that yet? Maybe they have. Can't remember.
I mean, JF is the one that usually talks about the crowd the most, but yeah, they haven't really got a guy.
That was a nice little
really going. Yeah, but he was winning, and they just pelted the ring. They were not man, don't threaten.
And another ECW thing, we didn't know. You didn't know if Jerry Lynn was going to win this match because Justin Credible was just he was running through people too.
Yeah, no, I mean, like there's a lot of like near falls in there where you're just like, oh wow, he kicked out. You know, like it's I love that show. That's to me, that's the best show. And then after that, you got Jerry Lynn celebrating with all the guys, and the only guy who doesn't come out to, you know, to wish him to say thanks or, you know, congratulations is RVD. So even then, they're like planting the seeds for you know where they're probably going toward is RVD versus.
They were gonna have a heated rock. Who knows? Who knows? They might have made RVD a heel again after that. Who knows where they were going with that? I think New Jack could have ended up holding a title.
Yeah, no, I think
main event and everything.
He ended up with a TV title.
Yeah.
I think probably because Paul likes to book like year to year. I could probably see RVD facing Jerry Lynn again at Hardcore Heaven, and this time it being for the ECW title, and this is how he beats him.
Right, and that's the third Hardcore Heaven. That'd be their third Hardcore Heaven match. Yeah, and I could see like New Jack being TV champ, and you gotta, you know, go by his rules, and he just run through people.
Yeah, like, oh yeah, New Jack's. That would be great.
Yeah. Time Rhino was out, guys started just leaving. Rhino left, Justin, Jerry Lynn, they all left. All those guys left. And
no.
Remember the last episodes of TNN were all like recordings. They were tapings.
Oh, at the very last episodes of TNN.
Yeah, the very last few, they were tapings of stuff. They weren't even.
The last episode is just like I watched it. I'm like, what is this? This is just highlights of there's nothing here.
When as a kid, I used to record pretty much everything I could wrestling from 1998 to 2003 before I went away to college. And I got I remember ECW, I had like 6 volumes, and at the end it's sad because you see the dying death of ECW because it's nothing but recap stuff.
Yeah,
it became a recap show, and it was so daggone good.
Even the last Hardcore TV is not really, you know, it's like, what is this?
I never could watch Hardcore. I never could watch Hardcore TV because I didn't get the channel. But my best friend, his parents had a satellite, and they got the Sunshine Network, and he would record it, and I'd borrow his tapes and watch them.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that was actually on TV. That's so cool.
It was. Yeah. It was on the Sunshine Network. You didn't get that channel everywhere. I had Comcast, and my friend had some kind of satellite network. I remember I'd ask my mom to let me go over there I think they used to air it on a Saturday. I want to say I'd go over there and I'd spend the night and we'd watch it. Man, those are the times. Sure.
When would they air it? I'm curious.
When? Late. It was like 10 o'clock or something like that. It was like 10 at night or something. And he recorded all. He still has his VHSs of it. I don't have those.
Oh, man.
But they're all on the network now anyway.
All right. That's the ending of part 1. I would like you to join me with part 2. That will be on episode 26, and that will be up in a couple of hours. And I hope you enjoy. I apologize once again for any audio problems. I'm going to try and have those resolved on future podcast episodes. So thank you. And I will see you next time on the DMF.